Today, we are doing a deep dive into a manuscript that explained exactly how we went from ancient communal roar to, well, algorithm-driven wallpaper.
And why artificial intelligence is about to just completely break the system all over again.
Yes. The text is called The Last Musicians on Earth, The Truth About AI Music and Us by John Jay. And our mission for this deep dive is to unpack the massive existential panic surrounding AI-generated music.
But to actually understand why the industry is freaking out, we have to uncover some very uncomfortable truths about how the music business operates.
Yeah, the total myth of musical ownership and the crucial, often misunderstood difference between art and entertainment.
What's really compelling about Jay's approach is that he doesn't just start with the technology.
Yeah.
He argues that to understand the future of music, we have to aggressively deconstruct its past. We have to look at what we actually broke over the last 150 years.
And I promise you this, by the end of this conversation, whether you're a working musician yourself or just someone who relies on, playlists to get through a gym workout, the way you hear music will be completely transformed.
The way you think about human creativity, really.
Definitely. So
Yeah.
let's start at the beginning. Before it was a business, what was music actually for?
Well, evolutionarily speaking, it was a biological and social necessity. I mean, it predates spoken language.
Wow, really?
Yeah, before we could articulate complex thoughts, we used rhythm and melody as tools for collective memory, for physical coordination, and for ritual. It wasn't about a single genius getting up on a stage to show off to a passive audience.
The historical examples Jay brings up really paint this picture vividly. Like, you have Viking longboats.
Right, the Vikings.
They didn't have drum beats just to sound intimidating. They used the heavy, driving rhythm of a drum to physically synchronize the rowers, optimizing their energy to navigate these uncharted waters.
Or look at the Dogon people of Mali. They used highly complex ceremonial drumming to induce these profound, hours-long communal trances.
hmm
And consider the Maori haka. It's often misunderstood today as just like a performance for an audience.
Yeah, you see it before rugby games and stuff.
Exactly. But historically, it is a ritual that physically and spiritually binds the community together in moments of intense pressure or preparation for conflict.
So for thousands of years, to experience music, you simply had to be there.
You had to be in the room, by the fire, on the boat.
It was an ephemeral communal event. When the song ended, it was just gone.
But then we arrive at the turning point, 1877.
Thomas Edison.
Right. Thomas Edison recites, "Mary had a little lamb into a tinfoil phonograph," and plays it back.
The invention of recorded sound.
Jay identifies this as the exact moment music was severed from the present tense. It changed from a shared, fleeting experience into a frozen, solitary product.
A commodity.
Yes, a commodity that could be put in a box, shipped across the world, and sold.
It's like, I don't know, it's like taking a communal bonfire that keeps the entire village warm, bottling a few of the sparks, and deciding you can sell them individually.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize it, and the emerging record labels absolutely loved it. They realized they could package and scale human emotion.
And once they figured out how to scale it, they figured out how to exploit it.
Boy, did they.
Fast forward to the CD era in the 1980s and 90s. The labels had a consumer base that was used to paying around, what, $3.98 for a vinyl record?
Somewhere around there, yeah.
But when compact discs came out, the manufacturing cost actually plummeted. It cost them about 50 cents to press a CD. So what did they charge?
$16.99.
$16.99. It was artificial price fixing on a massive scale.
The industry forced consumers to repurchase their entire music collections, from the Beatles to Beethoven, at a staggering markup, purely because they controlled the physical distribution pipeline.
Which directly led to the revenge of the consumer. Napster.
Oh, yeah, Napster!
People felt entirely justified downloading MP3s for free in the early 2000s because the moral compact had already been broken by corporate greed.
But if Napster broke the dam, streaming is what completely drained the lake. Let's talk about Spotify.
Right. Daniel Ek launches it with his dream of democratizing music.
But to get the major labels on board, he had to give them massive equity stakes. And in doing so, the architecture of music consumption fundamentally changed.
Spotify basically turned music into pure data.
Yes. And the mechanism of how they pay out is crucial here. They use a pro rata system. This means that your $10 monthly subscription doesn't go to the specific artist you listen to.
Wait, really?
No, it all goes into one giant global pool of money. Then Spotify divides that pool by the total number of streams across the entire platform and pays out based on market share.
So wait, if I only listen to my friend's local indie rock band all month, my $10 isn't actually going to them,
No, the vast majority of your $10 is going to Taylor Swift, Drake, and The Weeknd.
just because they command the largest share of the total global streams.
Exactly.
It's like paying for an all-you-can-eat buffet, but the restaurant only pays the chef who cooked the most popular dish, even if I only ate a side salad.
That's a great analogy. And mathematically, this forces a behavioral change in musicians because you get paid a microscopic 0.003 to $0.005 per stream,
Fractions of a penny.
literally fractions of a penny. And a stream is counted after just 30 seconds of listening. So musicians are financially incentivized to make shorter songs.
Right, they cut out long intros.
They put the chorus right at the beginning to stop you from skipping. They optimize the track to sit nicely in the background on a chill study beats playlist.
They are literally turning music into wallpaper to game the algorithm.
And the economics are just brutal. At those fractions of a penny, a creator needs to rack up around 300,000 plays just to make minimum wage for a single hour of work.
300,000 plays. That is insane.
Which brings up the issue of infinite supply. Jay notes that right now there are roughly 175.5 million tracks on streaming platforms that have fewer than 1,000 plays.
Wow.
We have infinite music. Never in human history has music been more abundant, which paradoxically means an individual song has never been less significant to the market.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at your own Spotify Wrap this year, you'll probably notice how fractured your listening is. Hundreds of artists, thousands of songs, but how many did you actually connect with? But here is where we hit a massive contradiction in Jay's book. Because music became a physical and digital product, we developed this deeply ingrained idea that it could be owned.
Yes, ownership.
We have copyright laws, high-powered lawyers, multi-million-dollar lawsuits. But Jay argues that this entire concept of musical ownership is a destructive myth.
It's a complete illusion. Let's look at the paradox of copyright. What exactly are you claiming to own? Take the IVIVV chord progression.
Okay, let's pause there for a second.
Huh.
For the listeners who don't play guitar or piano, what is the IVIVV?
Right, so think of it as the musical DNA sequence for almost every pop hit since the 1950s. It's the standard four-chord sequence you hear in everything from Let It Be by the Beatles to Don't Stop Believin' by Journey to, like, modern Ed Sheeran songs.
So it's everywhere.
It is everywhere. It's a mathematical acoustic relationship that naturally resonates with human psychology. You cannot legally or morally own that.
Just like you can't own rhythmic patterns.
Right, because they are fundamentally derived from the human heartbeat and the physical cadence of walking.
Yet we have a legal system that pretends you can put a fence around that. Look at the famous Blurred Lines lawsuit from a few years ago.
Oh, that was a mess.
Robin Thicke and Pharrell Williams lost $7.4 million to Marvin Gaye's estate. But they didn't actually copy the specific sheet music notes or the lyrics of Gaye's Gotta Give It Up.
No, they didn't. They were penalized because they copied a subjective feel a groove.
Which is incredibly dangerous for creativity.
Meanwhile, you have a case where Led Zeppelin gets sued over Stairway to Heaven.
Oh, right.
The plaintiffs claimed Led Zeppelin stole a descending chromatic progression, which is basically just walking down the keyboard or fretboard one adjacent key at a time.
It's a musical stepping stone that has existed for centuries.
Led Zeppelin won that case eventually, but the fact that it went to trial shows how arbitrary the system is. It attempts to privatize universal human culture.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here, though.
Go for it.
Because if I write a fantasy novel with words, I own that specific story. If I write a movie script, I own that script. Why shouldn't a musician own the melody they write with notes? Isn't a melody just a story told with frequencies?
It's a very common pushback, but Jay points out a crucial fundamental distinction between language and music. Words have specific semantic meanings. A chair is a chair. A dragon is a dragon. When you arrange words, you create a highly specific, unique narrative structure that did not exist before. A melody, on the other hand, does not have semantic meaning.
Interesting.
A C sharp followed by an F note doesn't mean anything in a dictionary sense. It only carries the universal human emotion it evokes. It creates tension or release or melancholy, and you simply cannot copyright an emotion.
Oh, wow. That is a massive paradigm shift. You can own the lyrics of a song because the lyrics use semantic language to tell a specific story.
Yes,
But the sequence of the audio frequencies, that belongs to the human condition.
precisely. And if we want to see a model of how music actually thrives under this mindset, Jay points us to the 20th century jazz movement.
Ah, Charlie Parker, Miles Davis.
Exactly. John Coltrane. They treated chord changes and harmonic structures as shared cultural property. You could take a jazz standard written by someone else, apply your own investigative vision to it, completely deconstruct it, and push the entire genre forward.
Jazz avoided the legal minefields that stunt modern pop and hip-hop because it separated authorship from ownership.
Yes.
They said, I am the author of this specific performance right now in this room, but I don't own the underlying musical reality. The music belongs to all of us.
And that mindset requires a level of artistic purity that is very rare today.
But wait, if musicians don't actually own the underlying notes, and Spotify pays them fractions of a penny for the digital recording of those notes, what is the actual product? Are they just selling a vibe?
Well, this leads us to the most controversial argument in Jay's manuscript, and it's one that might sting a little for music fans.
Brace yourselves.
The big claim is this: most popular music is not art. It is skilled entertainment. And this is the vital part that is perfectly okay.
Okay, I have to stop you there, because that sounds incredibly elitist.
I know, I know.
Are we really saying a brilliantly crafted, culturally massive song like Beyoncé's Single Ladies has no artistic value? Or if you look at someone like Taylor Swift, her fans feel a profound emotional connection to her music.
Absolutely.
She's writing about her actual life, her actual breakups. How is that not taking an emotional and artistic risk?
It's a completely fair reaction, and Jay anticipates exactly that response. It sounds harsh until you look at how he defines his terms.
Okay, breaking that down for me.
He makes a clinical, structural distinction between art and entertainment based on commercial intent and risk. Art, in this context, requires taking massive structural risks, asking uncomfortable questions, and being entirely willing to fail commercially.
So it's about investigation into the unknown.
Think of Radiohead after their massive rock success with OK Computer. They could have made that album 5 more times and printed money.
Yeah, they were huge.
Instead, they completely abandoned their sound, alienated a huge portion of their fan base, and created the experimental, jarring electronic album Kid A.
Right.
Or look at John Cage's piece 4-Fit 33, which consists entirely of a pianist sitting at a piano in silence for 4 minutes and 33 seconds, forcing the audience to listen to the ambient noise of the room.
So art is high risk, high discomfort, and a very low guarantee of commercial success.
Yes. Entertainment, however, serves a different but equally necessary function. Entertainment is designed to confirm what audiences already feel.
To provide comfort.
Comfort, shared cultural experience, and predictable, satisfying hooks. When Taylor Swift writes a relationship anthem, yes, she's being emotionally vulnerable, but she is placing that vulnerability inside a highly structured, perfectly engineered pop framework that is virtually guaranteed to succeed commercially.
It is a masterclass in skilled entertainment.
Exactly. It serves an essential human need for connection and validation, but it is not structurally investigating the unknown.
I see. So it's not a value judgment where art is good and entertainment is bad. They just serve entirely different functions. One investigates the unknown, the other perfectly serves the known.
Yes. And the reason musicians are so terrified of AI right now is that they have confused these two categories.
How do you mean?
They have spent the last 10 years optimizing their songs for Spotify algorithms, making the intros shorter, hitting the chorus faster, smoothing out the rough edges. They have turned themselves into biological algorithms to succeed in the entertainment market.
Ah, and AI is exceptionally good at replicating the formulas of entertainment.
Very good at it.
If you've reduced your creative process to pattern matching, you shouldn't be surprised when a machine eventually matches those patterns more efficiently than you can.
Precisely. AI only threatens musicians who have already turned their music into a predictable formula.
But how is the AI actually doing this? Because if you spend 5 minutes online, the fearmongers have everyone convinced that AI is just a giant digital blender.
A blender, yeah.
People think these companies are feeding millions of copyrighted MP3s into a machine, chopping them up, and spitting out a stolen, plagiarized mashup.
That is a fundamental misunderstanding of the technology, and Jay spends a lot of time debunking it. AI music models do not hear music the way human ears do,
Right.
nor do they store a massive hard drive of copyrighted songs to sample from.
So what is the mechanism? How does it actually learn to make a song?
What happens is the audio files are converted into spectrograms.
Vectorgrams. Which are what, exactly?
Imagine taking a song and turning it into a visual heat map.
Okay.
The vertical axis is the pitch, how high or low the sound is. The horizontal axis is time. And the brightness or color of the pixels represents the volume. It's a visual mathematical map of frequencies over time.
But the AI is essentially looking at pictures of sound.
Exactly. The neural network analyzes millions of these visual maps to learn statistical relationships. It looks at the pixels. It learns that a specific cluster of pixels, which represents a heavy bass drum thud, is statistically followed by a splash of high-frequency pixels, which represents a hi-hat symbol. It learns that a specific harmonic progression mathematically resolves in a particular way 80% of the time.
It builds a vast statistical map of musical behavior.
Yes. So when you type a prompt into an AI music generator, it's not recalling a specific song from a database.
It calculates what sonic pattern mathematically should come next based on billions of data points.
You've got it.
So it's basically like the predictive text on your smartphone. When you type, "I am going to the sea," your phone guesses store or park based on how millions of other people type.
Yeah.
But instead of guessing the next word, the AI music model is guessing the next audio frequency.
That is exactly what it is doing. It's highly sophisticated prediction, but because it's just statistical math calculating the next pixel on a spectrogram, it lacks any authentic intent.
And this becomes glaringly obvious when you look at where AI completely fails.
The lyrics, Jay calls this the greeting card flaw.
The greeting card flaw. I love that.
Because the AI processes sung words purely as phonetic audio patterns, it analyzes how the syllables sound acoustically rather than semantic language, like what the words actually mean.
Right, the semantic meaning we talked about earlier.
Exactly. Because of this, it can generate lyrics that rhyme perfectly. The meter is flawless, the rhythm is catchy, but they are completely emotionally hollow.
It produces the musical equivalent of a generic, mass-produced greeting card you buy at the pharmacy.
Yes.
It sounds like someone expressing emotion, but there is no inner life, no lived experience, and no authentic intent behind it.
Because the machine has never had its heart broken. It's never lost a friend. It's never felt the sun on its face. It's just replicating the acoustic shape of a human expressing those things.
That's a great way to put it.
The meaning doesn't actually come from the AI. It comes from you, the human listener, projecting your own emotions onto the pattern.
And since AI lacks that inner life, the true artists, the investigators we talked about earlier who take massive risks, they aren't fighting this technology.
No, they're actually using it to push the boundaries of human expression. This is where Jay dismantles the ego trap of authenticity. He calls it the artist illusion.
It's artist's illusion.
Musicians love to draw an arbitrary line in the sand about what constitutes real music, but history proves them wrong every single time.
Think about your own favorite bands. In the 1970s, people said synthesizers were cheating because you just pressed a button to get a string sound instead of hiring a real orchestra.
Right.
Then drum machines were cheating, then looping pedals, then digital sampling, then auto-tune. Every new tool is called the death of music until a visionary figures out how to use it to make you cry.
True creatives don't care about the supposed purity of the tool. They care about the impact of the communication. If a tool helps them say something they couldn't articulate before, they embrace it.
And we are seeing real-world examples of visionaries embracing AI right now, like Imogen Heap.
Oh, her work is fascinating.
She created her own customized AI voice model, which she calls AI.ModEngine. She feeds it her own unused stems. And for those who don't know, stems are just the isolated individual recording tracks, like taking just the raw vocal track or just the drum beat before they're mixed together.
Yeah.
She feeds the AI her stems and vocal outtakes from all the way back in 1998 and uses the AI to discover new collaborative ideas and harmonies that her human brain might not have logically connected.
Or look at Holly Herndon's album Piro Eo, which explicitly features an AI collaborator she named Spawn.
Spawn, that's so cool.
She isn't hiding the machine or using it to ghostwrite pop hits. She's using it transparently to explore the intersection of human and machine creativity. She is asking the fundamental artistic question, what does it sound like when human consciousness creates with the algorithm?
It completely reframes the conversation. But the AI isn't just for avant-garde pop stars either. Jay touches on how AI is excelling in places where human ego and authorship aren't needed at all, like therapeutic applications.
This is perhaps the most beautiful application of the technology. Researchers are using AI to generate real-time, stress-reducing ambient music for clinical therapy.
Wow.
Because it can endlessly generate non-repetitive calming frequencies, it's perfect for this. They are also using it to create hyper-personalized music for reminiscence therapy for the elderly, stimulating deep memories for dementia patients without the need for a human composer's artistic ego to get in the way.
It serves a pure, functional human need for healing.
Yes.
And this naturally leads us to look at the horizon, because the current system, the infinite scroll of Spotify, the micropennies per stream, the desperate race for algorithmic attention, Jay makes it very clear that this is entirely unsustainable.
It's a bubble, and bubbles always pop.
What happens when the screaming bubble eventually bursts? When platforms like Spotify go the way of MySpace and Napster before them?
When the servers spin down, music won't die. It can't. It's too fundamental to our biology. What will happen is a return to the roots.
Right.
Jay envisions a post-collapse future where music returns to local, physical spaces, to community centers, to weddings, to basement shows.
We go back to the bonfire we talked about at the beginning.
Yes, musicians will be forced to stop trying to be digital content creators, fighting for global algorithmic supremacy, and return to being actual physical members of their local communities.
They will rely on direct patronage from people who actually know them.
Like poets, they will create singular, meaningful works, not for an algorithm, but simply because they have the profound human necessity to give form to what moves through them.
And the people who just wanted to be famous, they'll probably find another way to chase the spotlight, but the musicians will remain.
Because while tech platforms can vanish overnight, the human need to express and connect through sound endures.
Jay tells us over and over that AI lacks human intent, and that's why we'll always crave the real thing. But I want to leave you with this thought. If AI models eventually become so advanced that they perfectly map and replicate the exact imperfections of a human performance, the slight breath a singer takes before a massive chorus, the microscopic rush in tempo when a drummer gets excited, all the tiny mistakes that make us feel like a real human is in the room, will we actually be able to feel the difference?
That is the big question.
Or will we discover that our deep, profound emotional connection to music is really just a biological math equation that a machine finally learned how to hack?
That is the ultimate question we are going to have to answer in the next decade.
Something for you to chew on next time you put your headphones in. Thank you so much for exploring this deep dive with us. We'll catch you on the next one.